Welcome, everyone. Thank you so much for being here. I'm so excited to introduce you to our three speakers today, four. We're now four. So 4 speakers. Today, we are going to be speaking about youth. And as you just saw, as you're all just coming into the room, just be aware that we are recording this. It will go up on YouTube. So if you want to share it with anybody afterwards, you'll find it on our channel on YouTube. Thank you very much. Yeah, we would love for you to have your videos on. It's really nice to see your faces, to get to know you. I know you'll see a lot of my face and the speakers' faces, but it's so nice to see all of you in the community as well. But we do understand if you prefer not to for data reasons, for privacy reasons, etc. It would also be great if you could change your name to your name and your organization so that when you write questions in the chat or comments, people can quickly understand where you're coming from. And that helps us to also follow up afterwards or to network in the future. So feel free to do that. Yeah. Questions in the chat, as I just said, you'll notice that you can't unmute yourselves. It's just for our speakers so that we don't have any interruptions. So while the speakers are speaking, feel free if you have anything comes up, just shoot it out into the chat and we will have a question and answer session afterwards and be able to answer as many of those as possible. Cool. Yeah, let's just get everybody 1 more minute. I know Germans are really, really on time. I'm based in Germany right now, but let's just give everyone another minute to get here and we'll start at 5 minutes past the hour. So nice to see so many faces. I know lots of you by name or through the EuroPARC network, but we're also open to everyone interested and a lot of youth faces, which is awesome. Okie dokie, so it's 5 minutes past. I will start and I will share my screen. 1 second, please. There we go. Esther, can you give me a nod that everything's in order? Great, perfect. Yeah, so I just want to give everybody a quick introduction to EuroPARC. As I said, this webinar is recorded and will go online, which means that there may be people watching who are unfamiliar with EuroPARC and our youth programs. Yeah, for those of you who do know, I hope this is just a fun little introduction and you may pick up 1 or 2 things that are new as well. So, EuroPARC Federation is a network of protected areas, nature and regional parks, national parks, marine protected areas, peri-urban parks, and Natura 2000 sites. It will turn 50 years old next year, which is a really big milestone. And we're really, really happy that so many areas engage with us and really want to be part of a network to share what they've learned, to learn from others, and to really work across borders, because nature doesn't think about borders, so we should really not let that stop us with our work. We're also divided into some sections, so you can also learn about your region and learn how other parks in your region are dealing with the same issues or different issues and learn from one another. So we've got sections that also do a lot of work in their area, in their languages. You can see on the right, most of our members are protected areas, but we also have some NGOs, some national governments, regional governments, and some supporting organizations and people. So it's not just clearly protected areas, but it's everybody in the protected areas community that are allowed to be members of EuroPARC. So a couple of years ago, we made a strategy for 2030. And in there, we really want to focus on our natural and cultural heritage, that it's protected, especially for future generations. And that is right there in our mission, but it's also in our strategy to really improve how young people are reflected, how their voices are heard in EuroPARC, but also throughout the network. And this EuroPARC strategy is also for the protected areas to really take to heart, to see how they can grow and what sort of goals that they can and should strive for to 2030. So we have a couple of really ambitious things we want to do, and that is also why EuroPARC has a youth officer now. That's me. Sorry, I should have done an introduction in the beginning. I'm always so excited to talk about youth. My name is Jessica Miklum-Kolinic, and I'm EuroPARC's youth officer. So here's just a small organigram. You can also find it on our website. I don't expect you all to know it off by heart or to give you a quiz on it later, but the two things in orange are really important for my work. So the one is the youth representative who sits on the council, and that's Leonardo Cherno. And the second is the youth officer, that's me. And so we have one focal point for all youth related topics who really is there to make sure things are happening on youth. And then we also have one focal point for the youth voice, for it to be heard in the EuroPARC Council. Yeah, so those are two really important ways in which EuroPARC is involving young people. Then onto our youth programs, we've got the Junior Ranger program. It's in more than 39 protected areas across 18 countries and more than 800 young people between 12 and 18 years old. We also have the Youth Plus program for those that have aged out of the Junior Ranger, then they can also still continue to engage with protected areas through Youth Plus. And it's a much younger program, and not all parks that have a Junior Ranger program also have a Youth Plus program. So there we have over 13 protected areas, 9 countries, and over 100 young people that we know of. One of my tasks is to update the database and see what's actually happening on the ground and connect them with the greater network. Yeah, so I'm still updating that because there was a lot that changed during the pandemic, and we want to make sure we can accurately reflect that. Yeah, so the Junior Ranger program, many of you might know about this. Some of you might be part of the Junior Ranger program. It's established since 2002, so many years now, and it's mainly focused on the ages of 12 to 18, but this can also be slightly adjusted depending on what your protected area has been doing or is already doing. And it's usually young people that are living close to the protected area who have a connection to that protected area. It's not supposed to be training future rangers, although if they're inspired to be rangers, that's a really nice outcome, but it's not the main aim. The main aim is really for young people to be learning skills so that they can also feel a sense of ownership. It's their nature, it's their culture, it's their future, and that they can also become ambassadors for protected areas, to go into their communities, their schools, their homes, and to tell everybody how wonderful nature is and what we really need to do to live in harmony with nature and stop biodiversity loss and climate change. So our young people are not only involved in nature conservation activities, they're also involved with tourist management, with maintenance of trails, with learning about the cultural heritage, and then also just having fun in nature, going for hikes, paddling, and all sorts of fun activities. Yeah, these young people are very outdoorsy, they're adventurous, they're engaged, they're active, and they're really wonderful to work with. And we really encourage all of our members to engage with young people. If you can, do start a Junior Ranger program, because it really has major benefits for young people and for the parks. As EuroPARC, we run an international Junior Ranger camp, and next year it will be held in Denmark. And that's always a really nice way for mentors and rangers and the youth to get together and exchange, to share what it's like in their areas, to learn some new cool ideas of what they can do. And it's a really nice opportunity to network. The Youth Plus program is then the next level up. It's from ages 18 to 30, and it has been developed from the bottom up. So young people have said, we want this program. We want to continue to engage with protected areas once we turn 18. And based on all of the feedback that we got, we have a new handbook, which mentions the 4 pillars of the Youth Plus program, which are communication, nature conservation, advocacy, and leadership. You can go and read more about that on our website. We also have the EuroPARC Youth Manifesto, and you'll hear a little bit more about this from one of our speakers, but it's really about bringing young people in, hearing their voices and acting on it, and making change and doing it collaboratively with protected areas, with young people, and with local municipalities. And then I also want to say that for those of you in the EU, this Youth Plus program really aligns with the Erasmus Plus priorities. So if you're considering looking for funding, it really aligns well and should be a possible source of funding for youth-led activities and youth empowerment projects, and especially participation in decision-making processes. What's also really cool is that we align quite well with some of the EU youth goals. These EU youth goals have come about with consultations with thousands of young people across the EU. And it's really amazing to see that through our network, through listening to the youth voices here, that we really are working on those as well, and contributing to youth empowerment across Europe. Thank you very much. I know that was a quick overview. For those of you who have never heard of EuroPARC, it was probably an overload of information. If you want to go and view it again, as I said, it will be on YouTube. Otherwise, feel free to just send me an email as well, and we can have a chat if you're interested in learning more or networking with us. Yeah, so that was a quick overview. If I mention anything and you'd like to know more, you can also write a message in the chat. I'd now like to make some space for our speakers. So first up, we have from the Cairngorms National Park Youth Action Team, we have Liam and Iona. And Liam has been active there for over 3 or 4 years now, and he's been traveling in Europe. He's been a really great advocate for the EuroPARC Youth Manifesto, and he's going to be telling us a bit about that. And directly afterwards, we'll have Iona. She has been active in the Junior Rangers since she was 12 years old, and now still continues to engage with her protected area, the Cairngorms, in their youth action team. And she'll be telling you what they've been doing since even just before the pandemic. So they have some really exciting things to tell us. Liam, over to you. You can share your screen and share with us.
Thank you very much, Jessica. I'll be using Iona's screen. So I am very disorganized. So I'll just put my thumbs up for Iona for the next slide, but I'll be out of your way very quickly. I'm just briefly going to touch on the EuroPARC Youth Manifesto, which you mentioned. So it was created back in 2018 by young people from rural areas, protected areas across Europe in Aviemore, Scotland. And it was launched the next year in the EuroPARC. So it was launched in 2018 in the EuroPARC conference in Aviemore. And really, basically, it was a lot of us sitting in a room saying, what were your challenges growing up? How's transport? How can you find work? Are you able to afford housing? And what are your hopes for the future in the places you've grown up in, the places that you love? And a lot of issues. There was a lot of commonality across Europe. Very different countries, but young people facing the same barriers and the same problems. So we've been backed by a lot of amazing partners such as EuroPARC, and we were able to create this manifesto and then promote it at 2 conferences. There was the Link conference in Estonia and the EuroPARC conference in Latvia within a very short window. So we were really lucky to be able to promote this, and hopefully there won't be many strangers to the EuroPARC Youth Manifesto. If you've never heard of it, then I'll put a link under this event so you can find the online version. But really it is just a very basic resource, no nuance, for decision makers, so that they can help young people, and more importantly, they can integrate young people into their decision making going into the future. So we're currently reviewing it to make sure that it's fit for purpose. Awesome, thanks Jessica. And 4 years is a long time. We've been through a lot since then, and we'd really like to hear from you how it's working for you as a resource, and if the uptake is as good as it can be. Yes. Importantly, we met some amazing Finnish volunteers from 3 local action groups, and they had a very unique model of providing funding to young people who can't afford their passions. And we've had a lot of workshops with our Finnish counterparts, and Iona is going to talk to you about how we've implemented these ideas in the Cairngorms National Park, and hopefully inspire you as well. So yeah, take it away, Iona.
Yeah, so as Liam said, learned from our Finnish counterparts and managed to set up the Cairngorms Youth Action Group. Then COVID sort of got in the way, but eventually in November 2021, we managed to meet up over a weekend to plan the fund. So there was sort of an overview of the fund, an application form, a sheet of questions any applicants might have, a sheet for us to store the applicants, and then a evaluation form for after the fund was complete. Within a few days, it's quite quick, we then drafted all that, reviewed the documents by everyone, not just the people who were at the weekend, and then we launched the fund. So the aims of our fund are to deliver funding to young people's projects in the National Park, contribute to delivering the aims of the EuroPARC Youth Manifesto, and meet the charitable aims and objectives of the Cairngorms Trust. So young people or groups for young people can apply to us for funding. They could be getting funding to go on training, it could be equipment for them to go cycling, skiing, just to engage in their local communities. So our funding comes from the Scottish Government's Rural Communities Testing Change Fund, which is given to the Cairngorms Trust, then comes to us, and then we pass it on to any successful applicants. So the fund opens, and then applicants have about 2 months, then it closes, and we have 1 or 2 weeks to look at all the applications, store them, and decide which ones we want to fund and send out offers. Then the projects have to be complete within a few months. Then there's a celebration event. We didn't manage to run it last time, unfortunately, but we are optimistic that this time we will be able to have an event. So we've got the Cairngorms Trust charitable aims, and we've translated them into a criteria for us to score the applications against. So in our first funding cycle, we had £15,000 available, and we received a little over 22 applications. Altogether, they were asking for about £22,000. So the applications closed in December, and the project had to be complete by the end of March. So had about 3 months. In the end, we offered funding to most of the applications, and the funding we offered was £18,000. So after that, we made a few changes to how we stored it, but overall we thought it went really well. So then our second round, we focused on promoting the fund a bit more. So we managed to get 40 applicants, which came to £37,989, and we offered money to 21 of those applications, and we offered 20,000, leaving 10,000 left for our second round. From the fund, we also decided to run a youth artist in residence. So some members of our group applied to the fund for money to run an artist residency. So it would be an artist between 18 to 30 who'd be asked to create a piece of art focusing on one or more of our themes, such as skills development, sustainability, nature connection, and community. So our first youth artist in resident, Rachel, stayed at Inshirek Bothy for a week, and in that time she created this interactive map. I've got a link at the bottom, but I might be able to share that as well. So if you click on any of the images, you can find out more about the folklore of the specific area, which is really important to her. The folklore, because a lot of it is not being recorded and is being lost, sadly. So we've had a meeting a couple of weeks ago, and we discussed what we'd like to achieve in the future. So we would like to work with similar groups from across Scotland. I think we're the group that is of the most developed. So we're now sort of in a similar position Finland was to us. We're now trying to help other groups get set up. So in February, we will be meeting with young people from, I think, 5 other protected areas in Scotland. We've also discussed running a climate camp. We're hoping to recruit some more members and raise awareness of the Cairngorms Youth Action Team throughout the park. As Liam said, we are reviewing the EuroPARC Youth Manifesto to see whether we think it has been successful, whether the aims are still relevant. We've also discussed setting up volunteering sessions within the Cairngorms, and we'd like to continue our fund and hopefully the artist in residence as well. That's
Thank you very much, Iona and Liam. It's really amazing to see. I mean, I know you guys hosted one of the workshops for the EuroPARC Youth Manifesto, and it's really amazing to see how far that's come in your area and how young people are being empowered. You're building skills, you're managing a fund and applications, coming up with your own scoring system. It's really amazing. when people put trust in young people, when you know, we've got intergenerational support for you, people who you can ask questions of and are ready there to lend a helping hand. And now you guys, as you said, you are now the model and helping more parks and more protected areas doing the same in Scotland. And that's really, really a wonderful example of, you know, how these sorts of movements can just end up being a domino effect in a good way. And thank you very much for sharing with us. Next up, we have Johanna from Sweden, from the Kullaberg Nature Reserve. And she is very active, a nature guide there. She's super enthusiastic about all the biodiversity and about young people as well, and sharing her knowledge and sharing cultures. And I will let her tell you about an experience that she had this summer. Esther will be sharing her screen. So Johanna, just say next slide when Esther needs to change slides for you.
Okay, good. Good, I'm ready. Yeah, so Kullaberg in Sweden is a peninsula, and it's on the west coast, south of Sweden in Scania. And this summer we had a very nice opportunity to try something new. What I understand, this has never been done anywhere in Europe or EuroPARC, I should say. So this was very interesting and exciting for us. And we had 9 young people all together coming. So we can take the next slide, please. So this is from left to right. The 4 people are the first Youth Plus group. And the person to your right is my daughter, and she's participating in the Junior Rangers on Kullaberg. So she was a participant all the weeks. So we had the 2 groups in July and August, and they had 3 weeks each. And all of them had different experiences and, well, ages, came from different countries, but they had the care and the love for nature. That's what was something mutual. So this picture tells you that there's a lot of garbage bags, and it's not garbage. It's actually a poisonous plant that we picked. So I helped as well. Yes, and it's toxic for the animals, and that's why we needed to get rid of them. So this was one thing that all of them were doing, both groups. And next slide, please. And this was also with the first Youth Plus group. And the question was, do we work with Junior Ranger or not? The first group had the opportunity to do that. So this was one time when we released a few thousand eels, baby eels, and very exciting. We hadn't done it for 2 years now, so this was the first time in 2 years, and it's always so much fun. So yes, you can see my daughter in the middle and the Youth Plus to your left, and we had others from Junior Rangers as well. And they are wearing the green t-shirts, and the one guy in the middle with the hat, he is one of our Swedish Youth Plus. And so they were helping out, and the first group, during their 3 weeks, they were working with Junior Rangers a lot, because we have some kind of it's a day camp for 3 a week for Junior Rangers, about 6 to 8 younger people. and we're doing different things, and of course there's a lot of things to do when you have so many activities going on. So next slide, please. Yeah, so the question, to work with Junior Ranger or not, that is the question. Because the next group, and these are the guys, and Jessica. Yeah. So they didn't have that opportunity because we didn't have Junior Ranger, the day camp, when they came. And well, my daughter, of course, forced into everything. She needed to be there because I was there. But the second group, they got to do different things. So you can see Irina to left, she's carrying, actually Alberto is in the back of the picture, but they were doing a path with wood and fixing and mending. We met a local sheep farmer. So there you can see the sheep that are all over Kullaberg. We went to another national park to see what they were doing with the sustainability towards tourism. And that was the whole thing about this kind of pilot project, to give them the opportunity to see how do we work with tourism, and just is it sustainable, how can we do it more sustainable, and so on. That was the main thing, to let them know and to see what we were doing. So next slide, please. Oh, by the way, so the house that you saw in the background, that's what was one of the houses that they were living during these 3 weeks. So these are also a few more pictures that we did during these altogether 6 weeks. We were putting up bat houses. We visited the left picture down below. It's a place, it's called Ransvik, and it's very old, and we got the opportunity to listen to hear how they are working. Sustainability is also a thing to do everything from local farmers to get food and then do it into a cake or whatever. And they got to pick litter during the coast, along the coast with a kayak, and they were able to go with me on my activities. So in the middle you can see Moritz is looking for something in the water, and we had a crayfish party. So a lot of culture things as well. And I was doing something with invasive species, so you can see that as well. There's a lot of things on one table there. And we had karaoke night as well. So a lot of mix of many things, but a very, very great pilot project. So hopefully we will have next year as well, but you never know, but hopefully. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing that, Johanna. I can definitely testify that it is an amazing place to visit with lovely park staff, and the Youth Plus had an amazing time. I was there for 1 week, and I got to meet most of them and present EuroPARC to them and have a discussion on the Youth Manifesto as well. So it was a really rewarding experience for everyone. I think if you'd like to read more, I've posted a link in the chat to an article that was written by Moritz, one of the Youth Plus who was there, and you can go ahead and read that as well. Great. Then we are on to our last speaker for today. We have Caroline Hall here from the Yorkshire Dales. Caroline is the Youth Volunteer Officer, and she is here to tell us a little bit about their program for youth called Upskill Downdale. Caroline, over to you.
Hi everyone. Thank you, Jessica, and thanks for inviting me to speak. Yeah, my name's Caroline. I work at the Yorkshire Dales National Park in the north of England, and I am the Youth Volunteer Officer. And I'm talking to you a little bit about Upskill Downdale, which is our Youth Plus programme. I will share my screen so you can see it. So Upskill Downdale was set up in April 2021 as part of a Generation Green DEFRA funded one-year project. And it was to provide educational, volunteering and residential experiences for young people who face certain barriers to accessing the outdoors. So these barriers could be for cultural reasons, for economic factors, also people who have different vulnerabilities or disabilities. So Generation Green was about creating more access for young people to the parks within England. And at the Yorkshire Dales, we have a really big volunteering body, but we do not have very many young people volunteering. And we really wanted to create a programme for young people that was long-term, that was flexible. So it supported young people's busy lives with the different things they've got going on. It was social, and it was a really fun community for young people to be part of. And we also wanted a programme that acted as a pathway for young people who'd finished with the Young Rangers, which we run for 11 to 18-year-olds. And then when they finished, they had something to go on to in the future. So here are the graduates from the Upskill Downdale programme from our first year, so from April 2021 until May 2022. So it was quite an informal application process to begin with 12 young people joining the programme and continuing for the year. And I initially consult with these young people to find out what they're interested in, the kind of experiences they want, any specific skills they want to gain, and kind of why they want to be part of it, so I can support them with that journey. So I then designed a one-year programme with one session per month, every Saturday, volunteering in different parts of the Yorkshire Dales and learning different skills. So some examples of what we did in our sessions. So we measure peat depth, and we survey species to find out. I want to tell you who these people are. So these are Caroline on the left and Emma on the right, some of our Upskill Downdale volunteers. And Hina here on the left and George on the right. They are surveying different species on some peatland, working in partnership. We plant trees, as you can see on the left. We also, we did some bracken bashing. So if you bash back bracken consecutively every year, you damage it enough so that then trees can grow in that area and you don't have to use chemicals to get rid of the bracken. So that's Lydia doing some bracken bashing. And a massive part of our work is also working in partnership with landowners and other organisations that are working in the Yorkshire Dales. So on the left, you've got a farmer we work with called Tom, who has a farm and supports hay meadow restoration. So we did some volunteering with him. And on the right, we've got Alice working with the National Trust doing some stonewalling up at Malham. We work with the Sustainable Development Fund to create a video around conservation farming. We did some eDNA surveys to find out about different invertebrate species in the river. And we also have quite a lot of discussion and debates with conservation organisations to discuss the challenges and conflicts that some of their work face, and to understand more about what it takes to kind of be part of these organisations and think about some of the solutions as well. So networking is a really important part of the programme for the young people to understand about different jobs that are available to them, but also to gain a really broad understanding of the conservation sector. Oh, and this is one of our young people, Amy. She volunteered with the Yorkshire Peak Partnership, and I've got a little video of her, so I'll share it. Oh.
Oh. I've got one more message for you guys. Slow the flow. Now let's go and get a broom.
Amy is really interested in peat, and she has been paired up with Yorkshire Peat Partnership to do very specific work with those guys. So it's a really good opportunity for her. I think especially our partners are really keen to work with young people. So Upskill Downdale volunteers, they've got loads of energy, lots of enthusiasm, lots of knowledge. And they also, when they become part of the programme, they have access to individual placements. So if they're specifically interested in bats, for example, they could volunteer with the wildlife and conservation team and learn very specific skills that will help them with their knowledge and their kind of career, if that's the way they want to go. So another part of the Upskill Downdale programme, of the 12 young people who were part of Upskill Downdale last year, 2 of them were elected to become youth representatives on the management plan steering group. So they sit in these meetings, and they also consult with the youth forum, which is all the staff under 30, and with the young rangers and the Upskill Downdale to gather their voice and to share it in those meetings. They also consulted on the Yorkshire Dales National Park Authority's response to the Glover Review. And as you can see here, they also met with Rishi Sunak, who is now our Prime Minister, but he was at the time the Chancellor of the Exchequer, to discuss the programme. So there are spaces within this to kind of talk about what's going on and share their voice and share their opinion. So the programme has become quite widely recognised as quite a vibrant community of young people within the park. And it's also a space where young valuable skills and experiences are created. And as Generation Green funding ended in June 2020, the authority decided to make Upskill Downdale a permanent part of the action plan. And so we started our second year of volunteers this May, so they will be with us for another year. So here's all the second year volunteers up in Ingleborough. So it's, yeah, I really like that photo of them. And if anybody's interested in learning any more, I'm happy to answer questions, or if you wanted to send me an email, I can answer anything about the project or anything that's happening in the Yorkshire Dales. So thank you.
Thank you so much for sharing about that. It's really inspiring work. And what all 3 of you have expressed and shown is that young people really want to get engaged. Young people are really excited and looking for opportunities. And it's really very rewarding for the staff as well as all the people involved in the protected areas to help make opportunities available for young people to get involved. So thank you very much. If you're interested in seeing more about Amy and her peatland volunteering experience, you can have a look at the EuroPARC Junior Ranger Facebook page, and you can see the video that has also been shared there. So thank you very much, Caroline. Also a clarification, maybe some people are confused about the term young rangers. In the UK, what EuroPARC refers to as junior rangers are called young rangers there. Also for any Swiss people out there, what EuroPARC calls Youth Plus is also called Young Rangers in Switzerland. So there are a lot of terms flying around, but we are an open and inclusive family of youth programs. So as long as we all understand what we're talking about, we will get through the synonyms. Yeah, so there have been a few questions in the chat. I have one for Liam and Iona. Maybe you each want to take a chance to answer it. It was how best can you get how best can one get the trust of a protected area to on board to set up something for youth? Like, how did you have to prove somehow that you were trustworthy young people? Did it come through the Youth Manifesto, or how did you manage to start up that partnership?
So initially, getting the partnership with the trust fund, that was mainly carried out by our project officer, who works within the national park. He's a very well trusted figure. If anybody, so Mary Jane's got in touch, saying that her area would be very interested in doing the same thing, and yeah, I've put Alan's email address in there. He's kind of the expert in how to make this possible, but it should keep getting easier. Even within 1 year of our projects, it's generated a lot of publicity. We're being contacted by different magazines and news outlets who kind of picked up on how equipment's being used. I think the most recent example, there was a LGBTQ plus kayaking group that wanted new paddles. With the funding, they were able to get the paddles, and the club's grown, and we're being approached about that, and they want to hear more about how our funding system works. So because the success is so instant, and the grant applications are quite rigorous, and so they have a very high success rate, this should kind of keep making it seem more possible, rather than it's not money being thrown at people, it's money going to where it's needed. So definitely, if you are interested in doing it now, then definitely get in touch with Alan. But hopefully, with our project and the ones that will soon hopefully be set up across Scotland, it should seem like a very sensible thing to do very soon.
Thank you so much for that. Iona, would you like to add anything?
Yeah, I think Liam's right that it does get easier. We've sort of generated positive publicity. We might be able to meet up on a sort of British-wide level. I know sort of meeting other people from Scotland, but I don't see why we wouldn't be able to meet with other people from England or Wales. If they want to meet, we're happy to help set up a similar thing to us.
Thank you very much. Yeah, so I think the answer to that question is, one, have an adult who is really championing your cause, and the mentors and the rangers that work with youth can really speak for them in an authoritative way. Two, it's also really helpful if you've had a junior ranger program and those young people have been involved in the park and people are used to seeing them and their faces and know they're trustworthy. And then lastly, young people just showing that they can do stuff and that they can do it well really speaks for itself. And once you really take a chance and put your trust in young people, that amazing things can happen. Thank you for those answers. Then we've got a question for Johanna. It was, how was the project financed? Did the participants have to pay to attend the summer experience?
Yeah, I did write something in the chat.
Yeah, but because it's being recorded and put on
yes.
YouTube, I think more people can hear the answer as well.
Yeah, and I think I'm not sure about the second question for me then. So I tried to answer both, and the participant had, well, they paid some, but that was mostly for what they wanted to buy, like things to bring home. So they were getting like a scholarship. And Jessica, I'm not sure because that was Elena's part.
Okay, maybe
was it funded from EuroPARC?
I can jump in there.
Yes,
So
please.
it was on behalf of the protected area. They had received money to help them pay for summer workers to help with the increased tourist problem. And I believe the director of the park, correct me if I'm wrong, Johanna, Daniel Aberg, he's a senior management position, and he really has a lot of faith in young people, and he directed the money then to go to get Youth Plus sponsored to come. And we partnered up, they partnered up with EuroPARC so that we could offer this opportunity to the Youth Plus. And I believe the sum of money did cover their travel and their food and their living expenses. So the accommodation was also offered. So there was a minimal fee and very inclusive opportunity. It was treated a bit like more of a job experience. They had to send their CV, they had to go for an interview, and they had to do real work while they were there. The pictures showed lots of fun, but I know that there was quite intense for them as well, mentally and physically some of the days. But for those of you working in protected areas, you know this is the norm. So it was a great experience, a work experience for many of them as well, seeing what life's like having to do it for 3 weeks every day of the week, or I think they had weekends off. They did.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Right. And the summer camp for the Union Rangers are paid for from the county board, most of it, and those participants pay 100 Swedish crowns just to be able to be well, if something happens, what is that called? Like an accident, and you're covered.
Insurance.
Insurance, yeah, right.
Yeah.
And they get a T-shirt as well.
Thank you very much. I didn't see any questions in the chat for Caroline, but I have one. I know I can see from your big smile, but maybe you can share your own personal experience. How rewarding has the experience been for people working in the park with the young people?
I think there's been I guess if I'm speaking more generally of the atmosphere within the team and within the authority, there is a lot of young people coming through the doors of our organisation, and because volunteers are doing specific placements, there is a lot of young people coming in and they're interested, they're passionate, they're asking questions. And I think in the Yorkshire Dales, there was a lot of staff who've been there a long time. And so new faces is interesting, is exciting, it's good. And I think now we're in our second year and we'll be starting our third year in April next year. So there's a real body now, like there's a big body of young people, and the volunteers from the first year still are involved a little bit this year. And so it's a I don't know, it's a bit of a feeling, it's a bit of an atmosphere. And I think for me personally, I love working with this group of young people, and I feel lucky to spend time with them and to work with them. So yeah, I recognize I'm really lucky. Yeah.
Thank you very much. I definitely echo some of those feelings in my role as youth officer here at EuroPARC. Yeah, so that was our webinar, Spotlight on Youth, just showcasing 3 examples of parks in our networks really taking the initiative and making opportunities available for youth. And these 3 examples were quite different And I hope they provide some inspiration for those of you who are involved in protected areas. For those of you that are young people, these are cases that you can take and say, look here, look what they're doing. Can't we do something like that? And I really hope that this will be one of those dominoes, good dominoes that's falling and making new waves throughout the EuroPARC network. I want to also say a big thank you to our 4 speakers. It's really wonderful to have your voices and your experiences, and thank you for being brave and also dealing with some technical hiccups and some emergencies along the way. So I really appreciate the time you took to be here in your free time for some of you. And we really enjoyed listening to you and hearing your stories. With that, I would like to say thank you and to all of our watchers, our listeners, everybody who will watch this on YouTube. And we hope you all have a wonderful day. You are welcome to email me at any point if you have any questions, if you want to have any connections or find out about more activities. My email address is jessica.micklem@europarc.org, and I'm also on the EuroPARC website under the directorate. So you can get in touch with me and I can help you get in touch with other people. Great. With that, I wish you a lovely afternoon, wherever in the world you are. And yeah, goodbye.